good. How about you? Charles hadn't been over here messing with some stuff yet.
At this time, I call the regular city council meeting to order at 6:02 PM on Tuesday, June 13, 2023. Tonight, we have with us Grady Simpson, District 2 Council Member, Stephanie Holmes Thomas, Deputy Mayor Pro Tem, District 4 Council Member, Andrea Reese, District 5 Council Member, and Mayor Rick Carmona is excused. He has a family obligation celebration with his granddaughter at a swim meet today. And we will move on to invocation. Today we have Harold Wilson with the Breezy Hill Association, and he will do invocation for us, offer the invocation, and then we will ask everybody to please stand and remain standing for the pledge. Yes, sir.
Good evening. Didn't actually know that I was doing invocation until now, but it's always an opportunity to recognize a higher power above us all, and so I take this opportunity now to offer prayer. If we would pray. Father God, we thank you. We thank you for the opportunities that you've given us. We ask that you would be in our hearts, minds, and what we do, what we say at this meeting, be a blessing and a present to you, Father. Father, I ask that you restore your blessings on the leadership of this country, the leadership of our state, the leadership of our city, Father. We ask that each member of our city council and the city administration be blessed with the presence that you would allow them. Father, we ask that you would just bestow blessings on each person that's here, the families that are represented, the attitudes and the ministry that each person gives be a grace and mercy to you, Father. Father, I thank you for this opportunity to meet and pray and give reverence to you as our Lord. We do pray, offer this prayer in your Son's name. We do pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. And at this time, we will move into mayor and council community recognitions. And I will ask that Harold stay with us.
Okay.
Because he is one of many from Breezy Hill Association, Breezy Hill Park Association, and additional community members and partners that are working on the Juneteenth celebration. I think it's the 6th, maybe, or 5th, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, ma'am, it is the 6th. Yeah, it was 2017 was the first one, so we're now into our 6th year with it. Yes, thank you.
Well, I will, Harold, let you take it away and share anything you would like to share about Juneteenth and the celebration that we will have on the weekend of leading up to Juneteenth.
Okay, thank you. We'll certainly give an honor to the Mayor Pro Tem and the City Council and members who are present, the audience who is present. Thank you for the opportunity to present what we're doing, what we're about. We are the Association of Breezy Hill Park, and we diligently work to have this event scheduled for each year at this time. June the 19th is the official celebrated day for that, and we do our best to have it on June the 19th. So it is scheduled for, the formal program is scheduled for Monday. But for this year, we've been allowed to do something that's a little bit over charted past events, and we are celebrating in conjunction with the city of Terrell in the celebration of the annual sesquicentennial. And that is a privilege for us. That is a privilege for all of us, actually, because it offers what the Association of Breeze Hill Park has always been our mandate is unity in the community. So if we can show that, we ask that every citizen of Terrell be a part of our event. We ask that the city and the members of the administration of Terrell be present for that event, and you have an opportunity to represent and do what you do best as a city, to represent the not only the city, but the citizens individually and collectively to do that. So just to give you a brief outline of what the event looks like, it will be held June the 17th, 18th, and 19th this year, and we have a dedication scheduled for the 17th event, and that is the time that we will formally dedicate our new basketball court in the name of the donors. Our honored Jamie Fox and Gilbert Willie Jr. have donated to have that basketball court totally redone, and it is now one of the best, not only in the city, but maybe even in the state, in the country, because it's ergonomic, and we're going to look forward to have some really scheduled events. We do plan to have a formal dedication that morning, June the 17th at 10:30, followed by some games and events for the kids in categories for them to receive medals. We will have an 8 to 11 and a 12 to 14, and then a 14 to 17 events so that they will get medals for free throws and actually three-point shooting. Just an opportunity to celebrate with the young people. The Sunday is scheduled for a day of just family time spent at the park. We have music bands scheduled. We have a full day of events, fun games, and then we have a softball game scheduled for the Sunday, and that extends basically to what we're doing on Sunday. And then again on Monday, our formal event begins at 10:30 at the park. We have games and exhibits and everything scheduled to begin at 10:30, and we will be there entertaining, showcasing the city of Terrell and the Association of Breeze Hill Park, and formally structuring and outlining what Juneteenth is and the event that is scheduled. Just so that you know, I'm sure you've heard of Juneteenth, but you may not know the history of it, and it is a formal, celebrated national holiday now, and we do all have the honor of celebrating the freedom that was given to African Americans at that time in 1863. But it didn't actually get to Texas until 1865, and that became a date of recognition for African Americans to do. Back in the day when it was not really just a recognized day, it was just a day of fun and sitting around and eating and, drinking and having a good time. But now it's more of a focused time that we want to make sure that everyone, and I say everyone, I mean everyone, understand that it's about freedom. And freedom is shared with all of us. See, because if I'm not free, then you're not free. And then so we understand that freedom, and so now is enhanced by the spirit of unity that's encompassing the event and should encompass everything that happens in Terrell and the country as well. Everyone knows what's happening around the country, and you see evidence of the impact of non-unity when people are not working together and recognizing the spirit and the liberties of everyone. That's what we want the Juneteenth celebration to be, and because it's being celebrated in that spirit with the city, we want the city to come along and share that the whole camaraderie that it brings, and so that we're arm in arm about this is an opportune time for us to showcase what it looks like and whatever it looks like, one day the country may see that Terrell actually shares that comment and shares that whole idea of unity in the community. Our T-shirts are emphasizing that. This year, our T-shirts will say, unity in the community, why not us, why not me? We know that it's all up to us, but it really starts with me. And if you are a believer and you reference it, that belief and that unity is found in 1 Corinthians 1:10. And if you read 1 Corinthians, it talks about togetherness, non-division, and unity. So I'm not biblical enough to quote it for you, but I know where it comes from. And so we want you to share in that spirit and share in that. Our program is going to begin formally at 4, and we will recognize, do the full recognition of a formal program. The city has a place in the program to speak on what the sesquicentennial looks like for the city in a collaboration with the Juneteenth celebration. So we would ask that you will come and make that whatever the spirit leads you to do at that time. There's a city declaration. I will be acting as the MC, so I will give you an opportunity to come up, whoever it is that's going to share that declaration and those comments about the collaboration of the city and the Juneteenth celebration. And then I will recognize those people who are considered leaders and dignitaries in our community, whoever that may be. I don't know who's all coming, but I plan to recognize, give time for those recognitions as well. We are honoring two tuition assistance students that will be matriculating on to a higher education, so they will receive monetary scholarship awards. We will be honoring them in the honor of Charles Phillips. If you know Charles Phillips, he was the first African-American postal carrier in Terrell. And so each year we are now honoring students in his honor, and his son and daughter will be distributing the check for that event. As you know, Mr. Phillips passed just a few months ago this year, so the honor is going to be, it's going to be a posthumous honor, but it will be an annual event. And then we will be formally honoring our Dr. Seton James Jackson, who founded and headed the Jackson Clinic in Terrell for a number of years, 40 plus years. We will be honoring him posthumously and giving the honor to his family, who is going to be present. And then they will accept an award and citation from us, and the city is certainly asked to comment on that. Generally, Mayor Kimona comes up or Mr. Sims comes up and presents the honor at our honoree each year, and they will have an opportunity for some comments and words. We have the Terrell Tiger Reds coming to perform as well. My understanding that they will perform and go because they're going to be there all day. So I'm giving them an opportunity to perform before they have to get out, because the plan is for them to be out by 4:30. So we're going to get them in. And then that consists basically of what our program looks like. We have a band that's coming, excellent band that we will be bringing back this year as a second term. And then we have a softball game. You have to know that turning on the lights at Breeze Hill Park has been an eye-opening experience for all of us. Those who remember Breeze Hill Park back in the day, back in the years, know what the lights were like back in the day when you could go up and just push the switch and turn them on, and they end up staying on all night for 2 days or so, and everybody was always like, turn the lights out at park. But now we are in the 21st century. The park looks great. So when those lights come on and everyone can experience the new additions and everything that's new, It is a thrilling event for everyone, especially for the young people who don't know what we went through to get that and then experience that change of generation. So that's an experience. And then finally, we will recognize our first responders. It has been my pleasure each year to honor our first responders with what's called the first harvest crop from our community garden. I do the planting at the community garden as well. And so we will have an opportunity to present to them the first harvest crop of, I gotta tell you, I had squash and okra and cucumbers and beans and zucchini growing, and I'm hoping that I can pick it in time to get it to you on Monday. But you will have a crop, and the okra burned, so I didn't get it. I'm just sorry about that. But it is a fantastic experience to watch kids come and experience the growth of a garden and digging in the dirt and planting a seed and harvesting it and then taking it home. First responders get the first crop. The seniors that we've designated in our community get another portion of the crop, and then the young people who help plant and harvest get the remainder. It is a community garden, but we can't feed the whole community, so it's outlined that if you come and help, then you're welcome to take. And it doesn't always work that way, so just to let you know, sometimes we're missing, but that's our plan, and we have a great opportunity to share that plan this year, and we certainly look forward to the three-day event that we have scheduled and planned. And we just, again, want to thank you. We want to thank everyone who's been a part of it, everyone who's prayed for us, who's acknowledged that. Certainly, Mr. Caldwell in his position in the City Parks Department has been such a support. And then we thank them always. And then so we want you to know how the general program looks. And if you have any questions or anything, I can stay after and answer, or I'm not sure I have a position to stand here and answer questions, but I'm certainly willing to get anything that's maybe a question in your mind or in the audience mind about some things.
I don't have any questions myself at this time, and certainly appreciate you doing invocation, offering invocation, and then also giving us a great overview about what Juneteenth represents and what we should expect for this weekend and the program on Juneteenth Day. I'll be brief here and say that I've certainly enjoyed over the last couple of years being able to attend and see the different activities, and it's a very family-oriented event. Yes, there's a program, but I think the really neat thing is that you get to see all the children and the families enjoying what unity in the community has helped blossom.
Yes.
Hill Park, and I was sharing earlier with you that I was at the park on Monday. I was walking my dog, and you can always, as soon as I walked onto Breezy Hill Park, I felt the unity in the community, where we had our regular gentlemen that are there in the mornings or throughout the
Yes.
day saying good morning. Our contractors on the city side doing the landscaping were very welcoming and talkative as well, and that's just the feeling and the welcoming that you have at Breezy Hill Park, and I think that I feel like that extends from the association and the work and the mission behind the organization, and I hope that continues to spread in the places that it may not exist in the city of Terrell. We have other association members
Yes.
here, so if they have anything
Yes.
else that they'd like to share, certainly turn it over to them, and Mike may have also.
Okay. Certainly, Ms. Thomas, who's an active giver at the association, and certainly Mr. Simpson, who knows Breezy Hill as well as I do, grew up there. He knows the purpose of it. So again, to acknowledge them as well. But anything else?
I'm just happy to be a part, and I'm happy with the growth and the partnership with the city to help us get to this point. Thank you, guys.
Mm-hmm.
This was a park that, as you said, we grew up in. And I remember selling snow cones with my uncle, A.P. Shaw.
Yeah.
And James Curtis bossing me around all over the baseball field. But it's just to see how it's evolved over the years and to see this, how it's come to this ultimate end, it's been a great pleasure. And I appreciate our city manager, our mayor, and our council for seeing this through.
Yeah,
I'm just going to pitch in and say that no city is great unless it has great volunteers. And Harold Wilson's been a great volunteer for the city of Terrell for a very long time. I want to thank you for that.
sir.
And I want you to also know, everybody listening, that Harold is sort of the tip of the iceberg. There are a very large number of very dedicated Breezy Hill volunteers, and we thank them all for that. And you're kind of representing everybody tonight, but we want to thank the whole group. And then I can't let it pass without reading your Bible verse for you. So 1 Corinthians 1:10 is, "Now I plead with you, brethren, by the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, that you all speak the same thing, and that there be no divisions among you, but you be perfectly joined together with the same mind and in the same judgment." That's a great Bible verse for you to share with us, and I appreciate you.
Very
bringing that
apropos.
forward
Thank
today.
you, sir. Lord is looking. Thank you again.
Thank you, Harold. And for anybody that's listening and wondering, where is Breezy Hill Park? Breezy Hill Park is located between the southern portion of Daniel Street and the most northern section of New Hope Street. So we hope that you join us over the weekend. And next, for community recognitions, we would like to recognize our District 5 council member, Andrea Reese. Andrea Reese has been serving on Terrell City Council for the last couple of months. She, along with various other great applicants, applied and put their name in the hat to serve on District 5 through the election period. And we may all have a different meaning of what it means and what the expectation is to be a city council member. And I can certainly say that Andrea has, we have seen Andrea listen to District 5 council residents and others in the community, notated their concerns, followed up with staff to address concerns as quickly as possible for community members. And I haven't heard any negative comments about not working from staff or anybody else not working well with Andrea. She brings a positive attitude, not only to the dais, but when speaking to her. And Andrea, I know you've also served, we know you've served not only as a volunteer for the city of Terrell in the past with the TERS board, and we would welcome you to apply to continue to serve in any capacity you would like with the city of Terrell. But you have also served on the Chamber of Commerce. You've served on various community organizations like the Terrell State Hospital Volunteer Service Council, let's say Kiwanis, and I'm sure many more. And you are also a small business owner in the community. And although you have moved, you grew up moving quite a bit, it really does feel like you have found home, as you have shared with us here in the city of Terrell. But I will, also, if anybody else has anything that they would like to add, they're more than welcome to do so. But please know that we appreciate your time on council, and it will not be forgotten.
I want to share the same sentiments. I had the opportunity back in March, we did as a council, to get some additional training for the cities across the nation. And during a little downtime, we visited Lincoln Memorial. And I won't forget Andrea and your support. I did not know I would be overwhelmed with emotion like I did. And I contribute my safety to Andrea, because I probably would have toppled down the stairs and hit my head and probably had to be rushed to a medical facility. But she was right there with that smile and those encouraging words as she kind of patted me back to my senses. But I'll always remember that about the heart you have for people and your service to this community. And we appreciate it, and I personally appreciate it.
Yes, I just want to say, it's been an amazing pleasure, you know, knowing you, Councilwoman Reese. Councilwoman, Mayor Pro Tem Mayor Ronnie Velasquez and I was on a select committee, you know, that brought you into this council, and you surprised us. We were overwhelmed with your knowledge and your passion for the city. And I remember maybe a couple months ago, I visited your office and we just sat down and talked about a lot of things about your business. And during that time while we were there, people just came in to say hi. These were the clients you've had for years, and that just really told me a lot about you as a person and how you have impacted so many lives. And I want to let you know, can't speak for anybody else, you will forever be loved by me. And I just want to thank you for allowing me to address your life and be in your presence. Thank you.
So, Mayor Pro Tem, I'm going to ask if Councilman Reese would just come up here for a moment. We're a small city, so we do small gifts. And so, any other council person who wants to?
And as we're all coming down to the podium, I'm gonna bend the rules here because we do have a visitor that has signed in, but his comments are really appropriate for this time. If you would like to come up to the podium.
I've been interrupted by Charles Whitaker.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, Andrea. I wanted to say that your ability, your business-mindedness, and your heart working together has proven that you are a good leader for this community. And so this is not an end to anything. It's beginning. So thank you very much for your service.
And sir, if you could state your name and your address for the record.
I'm not putting signs out anymore, okay?
It's just out. It's okay. It's just out. It's just out. Okay, so, first off, I'll say that for those of you who know Rick Carmona, you know that he loves these little giveaway coins, right? So, tough luck to you. You get a set of giveaway coins courtesy of the mayor who sent his love as well. So you've got the full set here. You've got the fire department, police department. You've got some of the other ones here, Terrell Independent School District. And really, thank you for being here during the sesquicentennial. So I'm going to give you those, but I'm probably going to give you too much stuff. So that's from the mayor. And then it's the tradition here of city council. So this one is sort of the gift from your council member friends. And so this is just a nice little set of flowers. It's very heavy, so if you get angry at Rex, you can just toss that right in his direction, and he'll settle right down, right? Because that's a heavy guy. No, well, yeah. So that's very nice. And then we also like to give a little gift from staff. And because I admire Harold Wilson and his gardening ability, I years ago planted some blackberries at my house, and we just harvested more than we could possibly stand, right? And I guarantee you these are the freshest, choicest blackberries from the Sims household garden, and they are with love to you from all of the staff. You have been a very kind council member for staff to work with, and we thank you for that. So I'll make you hold everything at the same time, but maybe we do a little picture, and that's all good. So come on over here, guys. I got you. Is that okay? Are we okay here, Allison?
You can be here.
Okay.
Ronnie, you
Good? Okay. Yeah. We'll be where Allison tells us. So.
Perfect.
Yeah, because Y'all have to forgive me, my eyes are leaking. I just want to say thank you. This has been an amazing, sorry, experience. I've grown to love everybody here so much. Boy, these allergies are terrible. And I love Terrell. I'm going to continue to stay involved, so if you guys have any kind of fun new volunteer opportunities, let me know. But I don't think people realize how hard our city staff works to do so much for everybody in town, and it's just seamless behind the scenes, and I think the same goes for the council. Everybody on this council puts Terrell first, and every time we vote on anything, we vote with our hearts, not just with our minds, and vote for what we think is best for Terrell. We don't always agree about what that is, but because we all know we care, you know, we're able to get along, and I think we all have worked really, really well together, and I think this is just an exceptional group of people, and I'm honored to have been a part of it.
Well, and before we move on to any other recognition events, I do want to mention that although Mayor Rick Carmona was not present today, he did want to relay a message and agreed with everything I shared earlier, and he really has appreciated working with you as well, Andrea. Does anybody else have any other recognitions or events that they would highlight at this time? Well, hearing none, we will move on to remarks from visitors. Do we have any additional visitors today? No? Okay. We'll move on to item 6.1, adoption of minutes. In this item, at this time, we'll discuss and consider the meeting minutes from the regular city council meeting on June 6, 2023. The meeting minutes are in your packet. Do I hear any corrections or adjustments to the meeting minutes? Okay. Since there are none, do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes as presented?
Motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Hearing a motion from Andrea Reese, District 5, do I hear a second? Hearing a second from Grady Simpson, council member for District 2. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. Item 7, public hearing. At this time, we will conduct a public hearing to receive comments regarding voluntary annexation proceedings to enlarge and extend the boundary limits of said city to include certain property described as a 1-foot strip of land in Tract 1 consisting of approximately .082 acres situated in the BBB and CRR County Survey Abstract 64, the BBB and County RR County Survey Abstract 65, and the BBB and CRR County Survey Abstract Number 66, Kaufman County, Texas, and a 1-foot strip of land in Tract 2 consisting of approximately 58.53 acres situated in the A. Bennett Survey Abstract Number 20, the R. Mead Survey Abstract Number 306, the South King Survey Abstract Number 271, the E. Browning Survey Abstract Number 49, the A.J. Butt Survey Abstract Number 62, the South King Survey Abstract Number 272, the E.W. Guthrie Survey Abstract Number 189, the R.A. Terrell Survey Abstract Number 557, the W.C. Moody Survey Abstract Number 322, the S.A. and MGRR County Survey Abstract Number 521, and the BBB and CRR County Survey Abstract Number 65, Kaufman County, Texas. This item falls under City Manager Mike Sims. So if we can please hold questions until we proceed with the public hearing and move on to the next item where we will discuss any questions that you may have.
So, Mayor and Council, we're happy to have a voluntary annexation here before us. This is a continuation of an item that was originally listed as Annexation 2023P in our previous annexation hearings. At the time, the city had proposed annexing a 900-acre tract that overlaps with a little bit of this property, so I'll describe that. The discussion with the landowner, which is Hunt Petroleum Oil, was that instead of doing the 900-acre tract that stretched from US 80 over to FM 429, that perhaps something might be more appropriate if it could come in as a voluntary annexation. And that was actually a continuation of some discussions that began way back in 2019. So here's what we've arrived at. That's a voluntary request from the landowner, and that is that there's a 1-foot tract around a section of land that runs on the west side of FM 429, and it goes down roughly to County Road 319, and it goes all the way up roughly to County Road 322, and it goes all the way west to what you might know as the old railroad line that used to stretch from Greenville down to Ennis. So that's roughly that zone. It's a little over 1,000 acres. And what's happening here is that they're saying we'd like to voluntarily annex in a 1-foot strip around the outer edge of that land that I just described. That's the 0.83 acres that are included as a voluntary petition. And then also included in that is a agricultural non-annexation agreement for 45 years for the interior portion of that tract. And that interior portion of that tract is 1,177 acres. Then you go down and you see the blue zone over here. That's the one that overlaps the old 2023P. This one is 58.532 acres because this includes not just a 1-foot strip around the outer boundary of the property, but it also includes a notch of land that's about 57 acres that is right adjacent to Old City of Terrell Lake. So that's the old water supply that was the water supply of the city of Terrell roughly from, I'm going to call it the 1920s through 1954, but Steve was here and he might correct me on that. So then, so the blue strip is a 1-foot strip around the outer boundary, and then you've got the 57-acre tract right up against the edge of the old City of Terrell Lake. And the non-annexation portion this time, all of that 1-foot strip surrounds a piece of land that is 2,084 acres. So the 2,084-acre tract, again, is a 45-year agricultural non-annexation agreement. And so what you're seeing here is that due to the effort put into working with the landowner, trying to find a way that would be workable for each party, they've increased the size of the non-annexation agreement from 900 acres to well over 3,000 acres. They've added a 1-foot strip, which is an additional positive for the city of Terrell, and then they voluntarily annexed the 15.7 acres next to the lake. So it's staff recommendation that we move forward on this item. The blue turquoise highlight on this page is a strip along FM 429 that also gets annexed because the voluntary annexation of 2 pieces of land can include a state roadway. That's part of our rule book that we deal with, and so we're including that definition of the land as well. The way that you read through the ordinance is basically to say that we're passing an ordinance that includes a voluntary annexation of the 1-foot strips and the chunk of land down by the old city lake. So the red, the blue, and the turquoise all get annexed. And then the area shown here hatched as yellow, that becomes involved in a long-term agricultural non-annexation agreement. So that's a brief overview. You see it in your packet with the signatures from Hunt Petroleum Oil. This is a corporation they have called Hoodoo, and they have signed it and asked for our consideration of it. So with that, I'll turn it back over to the mayor for the public hearing.
This time, we will open the public hearing. Is there anybody to speak for or against this item? Hearing and seeing no one to speak for or against this item, we will close the public hearing and move on to item 7.2. 7.2 is discuss and consider ordinance number 2990, an ordinance of the City of Terrell, Texas, annexing the hereinafter described property located in the city's extraterritorial jurisdiction and adjacent and contiguous to the city into the City of Terrell, Texas, and extending the boundary limits of said city so as to include the hereinafter described property within the corporate limits of the City of Terrell, Texas, granting to all the inhabitants of said property all the rights and privileges of other citizens, binding said inhabitants by all of the acts, ordinances, resolutions, and regulations of said city, ratifying and approving a non-annexation agreement, adopting the municipal services agreement, providing for changes to the official map of the city, providing for the filing of this ordinance with the county clerk, providing a severability clause, and providing an effective date. This does fall under City Manager Mike Sims again. And Mike, my only question at this time is clarifying that this is a voluntary annexation of about 3,000 acres.
It's a voluntary annexation of 0.83 acres, and then the 58 acres, and then the 2.6 acres. And so it's a little over 60 acres of voluntary annexation, and then it's a little over 3,000 acres of agricultural non-annexation agreement. And so the net addition to the city land area will be a little over 60 acres, and then it'll be 3,000 additional acres under a non-annexation agreement where they're saying, hey, we're gonna leave this land agricultural for a lengthy period of time, 45 years in this case. And so that's the summary of it. It does include a provision for ETJ expansion, and it does include the municipal services. They've agreed to 0 municipal services in the 1-foot strip boundary, and then they've also agreed on a list of businesses that they will not operate within the agricultural non-annexation agreement. So it's a pretty thorough approach, and again, it does come as a voluntary request.
Do we have any questions from council?
I think you answered my question. It is voluntary, and I'm happy to see that. I just had concerns about the change in the years when I look at the annexations we did before the 45. That's just a concern, but just because they annexed additional acreage and they volunteered, I'd consider voting. I mean, I'm that's just my concern on it. So I appreciate the work that the city did and the staff to get this done, and I'm happy to see that it's voluntary.
Thank you, Stephanie. Hearing no additional comments, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve ordinance 2990.
Hearing a motion from Andrea Reese, council member for District 5. Do I hear a second?
Second?
Hearing a second from council member Grady Simpson for District 2. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. So moving on to Section 8, Boards and Commissions. Item 8.1, discuss upcoming board and commission schedule. This falls under Omira Mata, and I'm failing to recall your complete title, Omira.
She is a development analyst, and she is acting today in good standing because she is a trained operator of the city secretary system over there. So thank you for filling in for Dawn.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Mayor and council, before you do have your June, July, and August proposed schedules. And those are all in your packet for your review. I do want to highlight that your strategic plan workshop is coming up on June 29th. That's going to be a fun-filled day at the police headquarters.
And I would,
Happy to answer any questions.
I would also note that the 27th is the official swearing in of the new District 5 council member. So anybody in the community who wants to join in for that is welcome on the 27th at 6 p.m. for the swearing in.
Thank you, Amira. Does anybody have any questions or feedback for Amira? Okay, so moving on to item 8.2, discuss upcoming board and commissions expired terms and vacancies. This item also falls under our development analyst, Omaira Mata.
Mayor and council, before you, you do have a list that our city secretary has put together for you. This is just a reminder that you do have upcoming members available for reappointment and replacement.
And I'll just note for you that we'll be working with Kaufman County on the Mike Hunt reassignment or reappointment. And whenever we get that word officially from the county, then we'll bring back himself and Mr. Whitaker on the TERS group.
And it looks like at this time, all of those listed on the expiration and vacancies document that's in the agenda and on the screen are eligible for reappointment, except Joe Hood from Planning and Zoning Commission. He will have completed his 3 terms and will require a replacement in August. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
We would certainly encourage any community members listening, or if you have a neighbor, to apply on the cityofterrell.com webpage to serve on a board or a commission, and you can always reach out or visit the city in person to learn more and to apply as well. Do we have any comments or feedback from council? Well, thank you, Myra. Discussion items, item 9. 9.1, discuss public information officer report. This item falls under public information officer Allison Walker.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for having me tonight. I want to tell Andrea publicly that sometimes she will make me laugh, but tonight I hope you do not make me cry, because that would not be good. Anyway, so I am bringing y'all some good news from Terrell today. We are continuing our celebration of our sesquicentennial for the rest of 2023. I don't know if you've been following it, but once a week on our Facebook page, we are posting events from Terrell's history. Sometimes those highlight someone significant in our history. Sometimes it's an event, sometimes it's a person, but we just do that once a week, so I encourage y'all to follow along. Then, secondly, we have officially opened our pool this year with a new slide. I think we have not had any more glitches. Glenn may correct me if I'm wrong, other than the rain. So you will see the regular hours, and then in addition, the pool party hours. I will say that typically the city gifts the civic auction a pool party each year, and that has been scheduled, I believe, for June the 24th this year, and I believe Carlton Tidwell has been the purchaser of that item for several years in a row. So anyway, that is coming up. And if you haven't been out to see the slide, it is pretty spectacular, so I encourage you to go out and have a look. The next page is an advertisement on some of the classes that are offered at the pool. Water aerobics, adult swim, learn to swim. Some of those, the early registration is over, but you could do late registration, or you could jump into the second, third, or fourth session of some of the other groups. Okay, the next is summer and fall youth athletic deadlines, and I've got my people here. If y'all have any questions, they can probably answer them better than me, but there are 29 kids registered for the TYFA football program. Registration for that is open until August 27th. 65 kids registered for the North Texas Longhorns, and then 37 kids registered for the Red Raiders. Is that a different name than in the past? Okay, I was thinking it was. Okay. Baseball, there was 103 kids registered, and that season concluded on June the 10th. And then soccer, 516 kids. It's a lot of kids. Practice starts the first week of September, and games start September 23rd. So anyway, I encourage y'all to go out and support all of the kids. Okay, major summer library events. I don't know how many of y'all came out, but I know the mayor and I were out at the summer reading program and activities fair last week prior to the council meeting beginning, and there were a lot of people out there. Becca tells me they had over 600 attendees. That's something that continues to grow every year. They have officially, these are just 3 of the things that she highlighted, but if you will look on the library's Facebook page or website, you will see that they have a full calendar of events every single week. So there's a sweet trees decorating group at the Halsey Public Library. That's by Christy Dooley, our downtown bakery owner at Whiskaway Bakehouse. There's a crafting corner on the 3rd Thursday of each month. It says, express yourself and de-stress for an hour during crafting corner. So all of the city staff will be over at the library doing crafts. And then the no pressure painting. So anyway, and on all of these, there is limited seating because we need a new library. So I'm just putting in that little plug for Becca. Registration is required, pre-registration. All right. Okay, sesquicentennial news and events. We are continuing to host events. Harold Wilson gave us a little plug for our cooperation with them at the Juneteenth event. We will have a display of the sesquicentennial panels. These were also on display when we had our Taco Festival, but we will have them out at the park. They are 15 very large panels that have pictures and information about each of the decades in Terrell's history. So I encourage you to come out and look at those. Also, Andrea actually is the very first person to get an official complete set of the sesquicentennial coins. So she might share those with y'all. Y'all can just look at them, but she's the first recipient. So anyway,
Be on eBay.
ooh, it's gonna make some money.
I'm just kidding.
Well, actually, those were, each department received those so that they could either give those away to people in their departments, they can use those as a fundraiser, they can do however they see fit with them. So anyway, you'll see the complete list there, and they did turn out really nice. So anyway. Okay, and some upcoming events through the fall. As Harold mentioned, the official ribbon cutting for the new courts will be at 10:30 a.m. Saturday. I encourage everybody to be out there. I know people are very anxious to get actually on the courts and play, but they wanted to wait for this weekend, so I understand. Let's see, Freedom Fest at the airport. The Chamber will continue to host their fireworks show out there, and then the BFTS Museum will also have food trucks there as fundraiser. The Mural Walk and Cemetery Tour is scheduled for September the 16th. The Mural Walk was something brand new last year, but we will expand that this year. In addition to some of the new murals we will have, we are also working with Oakland Memorial Park, and they are planning a fundraiser where people will dress as significant people in Terrell's history, and they will walk people through the cemetery and give a little overview of that person's life. So we're really looking forward to that becoming an annual event as well. the British Bash, it will be back on November the 11th from 11 to 4. We will have the Beatles tribute band back by popular demand, and then arts and crafts vendors and food vendors, and hopefully we will not freeze this year. So, we are also working with the Heritage Museum. They are going to do a car show on October the 14th. Raylan may correct me that they may have moved that location. It will be downtown, but we're not sure, or it will be on the parking lot still? Okay. Okay, downtown. We are continuing to work with them and try to incorporate some other events on that same day. And then last, the Geo Tour, which is something that's not really new, but is continuing to grow in popularity. That is kind of an adult scavenger hunt. It's the best way I know how to describe it. And there are items hidden throughout the city, and you get clues to go find them, and you can use your phone to try to locate them. We thought we would try that last week as a little field trip. I went with the chamber staff, and I'm embarrassed to say that I think we spent about 3 hours, and we didn't even get halfway through the list. And if we had not had Sadie with us, we would not have found any of them. So anyway, hope y'all are better at that little game than I am, but it is fun. Okay, and then here's a mural update. The Randy Snow mural is finally back on track and moving forward. You can see in the picture, that is the second image of Randy. This is a 5-image mural that depicts Randy from high school through his Olympic days. And so we have a commitment that will be finished in time for the mural walk, so I'm looking forward to seeing that one completed. Then the mural that depicts the life of civil rights attorney Fred Gray, who served on the board at Southwestern Christian College, that will be on the wall behind Cowboys at the corner of Moore and Virginia. The artist is scheduled to begin work on that in mid-July. And then finally, the mural walk will feature a paint-by-number mural again, and you can see a picture of that in that square up there. That's what this year's paint-by-number mural will look like. Okay, and then the last one is just to give you an idea when people don't see us moving forward. This is just an example of one of the blocks in downtown Terrell. And as you can see from the addresses, all of these are either in business or the remodels are underway. So we are very much seeing a possibility of having an entire block filled with businesses. And I'm sure if I don't have the answer, Raylan is here, she can answer any questions you may have about that. That's it. Does anybody have any questions?
Allison, thank you for the update. I have a serious question, and I have one two-part question, and I'll let you guess which one I want to be a part of and which one I do not want to be a part of.
Okay.
But will council have the opportunity to test the water slide and the cemetery tour? Is that at night?
Okay. Good question. Yes, y'all can test the water slide, and I will pay to have Rick Carmona go down the slide. I think that would be a good fundraiser. And the cemetery tour is not at night, but it will be in the late afternoon.
Thank you.
So.
And I have a comment as well, and then a question before we have our other council members join in here. Randy Snow mural. The sister of Randy Snow happens to be friends with one of my colleagues, and she happened to mention that she saw the mural, photo of the mural on Facebook. So while she was going to be in this area, she stopped by, took a photo. So it just, I share that because it highlights something that's being done in downtown that was simply shared on Facebook that somebody was able to see and spent some time here. And I can tell you that they also spent dollars while they were in the city of Terrell, right? So attracting folks down here and benefiting the city. But my question is for if you or our Parks Department can help answer this, for those events that we partner with, like TYA, for example, and the library, do we collaborate with them on highlighting registration, like in the newspaper, on social media, and other areas as well?
Yes. I am working with Becca and her team, and every time that they have something, we try to share it on our page as well, and we just go back and forth and share our information. So that is something that we do regularly. And the same with Glenn, so.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Before we let you go, do we have comments, questions for Allison?
I just think that you guys do a great job collaborating with the chamber on a lot of these events and things that are going on in town, and a lot of these are very creative. I like the idea of the cemetery tour, where it kind of gives history of Terrell. And then I've done some geocaching before, and that is a lot of fun.
We do.
Yeah,
We need a lot
yeah.
of help. I think we
Maybe
need to be
put
in like
A
the
little more
remedial
instructions out
group
there.
or something. I don't
Yeah.
know.
You have to have a sense of direction to do that.
Hey.
Allison. But I really think overall, all of this is great. I think it helps promote Terrell. It helps us, also helps engender just working together as a community.
Well, and as to your point, I noticed we had about 7,200 followers on Facebook. And after we posted, that was like 2 weeks ago, and we posted Randy Snow's and tagged him, and today we had 9,000 followers. So
Isn't
I
that
think that probably helped.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. Next, item 9.2, we will discuss the financial report. And this falls under our new finance director, Shelley Wallace.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, Mr. Sams. So today I'm presenting the April 30, 2023 financial statements for the City of Terrell. We are approximately 58% through the fiscal year. So with that being said, we're looking at the general fund, and we are slightly above where we have budgeted for this year. Our property tax revenues are up about a little over 13% over the prior year. Our sales tax revenue is approximately a little more than 3.5% above where we were this time last year. Our expenditures for the general fund are consistent actually with where we are in the fiscal year. Next slide. And again, these are the graphs that represent where we are in revenue and which function is taking up each piece of the pie. And of course, our property tax revenue and our sales tax revenue represent the biggest chunks. And below that, you'll see the breakdown of such revenue. These are our property tax collections, and again, we are about 13%, a little over 13% over where we were this time last year. And again, our revenues are budgeted kind of straight lined, or it just means that we take what we budget and we just divide it by 12. And so you'll see kind of where our peak times are In our property tax collections, which would be December through February, they have since actually kind of, curtailed off. So you'll see probably minor, minor revenues coming in for the rest of the summer. And here are sales tax revenues versus what they were in the prior year. And the month of November is the only month so far where we have collected a little less than what we budgeted. Everything else that we've collected in sales tax revenue has been above our revenue projections for the year. Next slide. Our water and sewer utility fund, we are doing very well with our revenue collections, as we are slightly above our budgeted revenue and well below what we've budgeted for expenditures, and that looks pretty good at this time of the year. Our airport fund is pretty consistent where we are revenues versus where we are this time of the year, and our expenditures for the airport fund is slightly above what our budgeted expenditures, and it's, kind of immaterial, actually. Our tourism fund, which is where we collect our hotel and occupancy tax revenues, and so included in there is our transfer to the hotel event center, and that agreement has generated about $249,000 year to date that has been transferred to the event center. Our airport capital fund, we are well collected in our revenues, and as you can see, our transfers in from the general fund for the American Rescue Plan will be budgeted for as when we introduce our budget amendment for the year. Our vehicle and equipment replacement fund, we are both consistent in our revenues and expenditures as it pertains to where we are this point in the fiscal year. The same will hold true for the Utility Capital Reserve Fund. We are actually collected in revenue consistent with what we budgeted for the fiscal year and slightly above where we budgeted for expenditures. And also we have some budget amendment line items that will be reflected probably in the June financials. Our stormwater utility fund, the same holds true. We are consistent in our revenues for this time of the year. We are actually well below what we've budgeted for our expenditures. So, and there are no like material items that are outstanding that would skew those percentages. Our IT fund, we're under collected in our revenues, but those consist mainly of transfers, and I will go in and review the transfer line item for the UCR as no funds have been collected on that line item, and I need to understand why so I can pass that on to you. With that being said, if those numbers hold true for the 300,000 collected, that would take us well over where we are at this point in the year, and I will follow up with you on my next presentation of the financial statements on that line item. Capital Improvement Fund. This is also an example of the budget amendment process. We'll update what you see in our financial reports. So for instance, if you look at the line item for the Donor Advised Fund grant for Breezy Hill Park, so that revenue came in the form of a donation from Jamie Foxx to the city of Terrell to rehab the new basketball court over at Breezy Hill Park. So right now it looks like no money has been budgeted for it, but because that information or that revenue came to us after the budget had been passed, It will take a budget amendment for us to add those revenues to the budget and thus be reflected in the financial statements. The Parkland Dedication Fund, we are somewhat under-collected in our revenues, mainly due to some of the fees in the different districts that have yet to be collected. And also, we're represented at 32%, which is well below where we are in the fiscal year in terms of expenditures. And so once we have the revenues to offset that, then you'll see amounts appear in the expenditure section that will be offset by those revenues, if that makes any sense. And then our tiers number one. Our tiers number one increment financing fund is funded mainly through tax collections. And so we normally receive those tax collection numbers through our Hal Jones reports. And so, as you know, that he has since retired. So we are doing those, we are identifying those revenues in-house, and I'll be working with Dawn Still to help develop those numbers. Once those numbers are identified, they are then offset by the line items that you see down in the TIF reimbursement area for the various vendors. So that concludes our presentation of the financials. Are there any questions? Comments, concerns?
Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you, Shelley. So next, item 9.3, discuss financial overview from Hilltop Securities, and this will fall under Jason Hughes from Hilltop Securities.
So I'm going to give Jason a little bit of an intro, and then we'll hand it over to Jason. So, Omar, can you help me kind of flip through these pages here? So I wanted to give you another shot at the 10-year capital plan items, because what Jason's going to talk about fits in within the 10-year capital plan. So as I mentioned last time, we talked about 10-year capital plan. This is just the same presentation from last time with a couple of tweaks. So we've used our INS property tax fund for some of our borrowing recently. We used our TERS number one for some of our borrowing recently. The Paddock has borrowed some money recently, and then the Texas Water Development Board backed borrowing as well. So those are just kind of a quick little summary of the most recent stuff. The next slide has a summary of all of the different series where we'll have obligations for payments in FY25 and beyond. So Jason's got a slide that kind of summarizes how much money we have left to pay on each of these, which was a good way for us to give an answer to a council question from last time around. But we also wanted to add this for you so you can go back and kind of say, oh, okay, that series 2021, that was the AMI meter replacements. Oh yeah, that's right, the 2014 was the police headquarters, kind of all those reminders about each one of these and what they were. And then you'll see in Jason's presentation the dollar amounts that remain outstanding with each of those. The next PowerPoint slide is going to be your staff recommendation to you for FY23. We've completed our water borrow, we've completed our sewer borrow, that's why they're shown in green. And then in this kind of bluish grayish color here, staff's going to propose that here this summer that we borrow $7 million for what you might generally call streets, and I'll detail that in a second. And then we would borrow $20 million for facilities. So the big animals in streets would be that in order to build our facilities that we are proposing, library in downtown and fire station number 3, we really need to make some street-related improvements nearby, and Apache Trail and Newton are the two leading contenders there. So somewhere in that $7 million, we need to develop a budget number for Apache and Newton in order to make sure our facility work keeps going. We don't want to open a fire station on Apache Trail and not make Apache Trail repairs. Same thing with the Newton issue. You can't get to a new library if you can't drive down Newton very well. We have some red streets, and I'm going to tell you that those are all to be determined. You've seen the staff reports on what is qualified as a red street in different districts. We get that from our monitoring system that grades all of our streets. We think as a staff that we're going to try to find some part of that $7 million. And I list these streets as candidates because we're not sure how much of each of these we can do, because we've got to get our price estimates on Apache and Newton first. But we feel like we could do some short segments of East Bryn, Blanche. I think there's a section of Daniels between Polk and Pinkston that is just very, very important to get done. And then we've got the corner of Colquitt and Ninth, which continues to cause some safety issues up there in that district, and we need to address that topic as well. So that's sort of a flavor about what that $7 million would be. We'll spend some time over the course of the next couple of months trying to make sure that we have better cost estimates on each of those. But I would say that $7 million is really going to be the peak of what staff is going to be willing to recommend borrowing under the street side of it. On the facility side of it, you can probably build fire station number 3 for something like $15 million these days. But we're going to estimate that as 20 because I'm very cautious in this day and age about inflation and cost overruns. But if we can get finals pricing on fire station number 3, I think we're going to have some room in that $20 million to remodel station number 2, maybe acquire our fire training facility land, do some of the preliminary costs related to the library, and then we have some parkland acquisition that we've talked about, and you guys will recognize that as the area close to Blanche and Nash. And that's the land currently owned by the county as we work through that county process there. So just trying to show you what the priority items are, what we're working on there. That's FY23. If you go to the next slide, I'll just say that the rest of this is basically unchanged from the last time around, but I did want to put it in your council packet so that you can take another look at it and see not just the first year of borrowing, but the 10-year plan for that. So, Omar, if you'd flip through to the end of my presentation, I'll be happy to take questions, but I think it's probably more efficient if you let Jason do his part of the presentation, and then we can kind of take questions as a whole here. So, Jason, take it from here, please.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. Good to be with you again tonight. So, as Mr. Sims said, what I'll do is I'll start with a quick summary of the city's debt, and then I'll go into an overview of a potential CO issuance if you choose to move forward with that. One of the things, usually whenever I show up, I have the news of the sale, and so that's what I'm reporting to you. So most of the time what you see come from me is the summary. So one of the things I thought I would provide tonight kind of goes into the details of what I keep track with and working with Mr. Sims and with city staff, what we're always looking at. And so as you can see here, this shows the outstanding principal. You do pay principal. Actually, some principal pays on 2/15 or February 15th. Others pay on August 15th. This is current as of today. So as you can see there, you have all of those issues outstanding. Aggregates into $91 million. And then one of the main things that I do in working, again, with Mr. Sims and with city staff is looking at what is available to repay the debt service. And so as you can see there, you basically have 4 main revenues that are available for that. INS tax revenues, your paddock revenues, your TERS. And then even though they're split apart here, you can see the utility, obviously, whether it's city issued or if we issued through Texas Water Development Board, those are obviously lumped together and repaid from water and sewer revenues. And then as you can see there, you have the final maturities of each individual issue. So again, that helps as I'm going through and working on the capital improvement plan for the city and kind of putting that together and making sure that we keep those segregated as far as where those revenue streams are coming from. On slide 2, just to kind of show an aggregate summary, if you will, you see there again, like I said, a little over $91 million. This actually goes through both principal and interest. So as you can see there, we have the interest component in the middle, about $38.5 million. Of course, on the utilities, specifically the Texas Water Development Board, a lot of that is at 0%. So that lowers that interest down significantly from what it otherwise would have been had we not gone through the Water Development Board. So in that graph below, you see that debt by repayment stream. Again, the 2 utilities, the light blue and the dark blue, make up about 57% of the overall debt that the city has outstanding. That pale yellow, the INS tax, is about 33%. And then again, in 2021, we did issue COs for Paddock and for TERS, and so that's about 10% of the outstanding debt. If you turn to the following page on slide 3, this again just goes through the debt service, and so this is principal and interest for those 4 main areas of debt service. So again, INS taxes, that's the light blue, the paddock is the tan, the TERS is the red, the utility is that dark blue. And as you would expect, again, the majority of the debt that's outstanding is utility-related debt. So as you would expect, the debt service on that is the highest debt service. But again, this is something that is looked at every single year, and quite frankly, even more often, kind of semi-annually, at what the debt service payments are on the upcoming debt. So that's the debt as it stands now. If you'll turn with me to slide 4. So as Mr. Sims went through, there is approximately $27 million of immediate needs with the fire station / facilities of $20 million and streets of $7 million. So you do, as a council, you can move forward and choose to issue certificates of obligation as you've done in the past. In order to do that, that does require that notice of intent to issue COs. There's 3 main items included within that notice of intent. The first is a not to exceed amount. So you can establish that. Mr. Sims talked about kind of peak cost on some of the projects. So from the point in which you approve the notice of intent, you can have a higher number and you can sell less debt. We just can't do the opposite, right? Because we do, again, have to have that not to exceed amount in the notice of intent. The second thing that's included in there is a general list of projects. It does make it nice in the sense that state law allows us to talk about projects and kind of group of projects or groups of projects, and we don't have to delineate every single project that we're going to use those funds for. So that adds a little bit of flexibility to the city. And then the last thing that you see there is, or the last thing that I have, is the sale date. So you tell the public the date in which you anticipate selling those certificates of obligation. So again, those are the 3 main items included in that notice of intent. And as you can see there, based on the timing, which I'll talk about in just one moment, we can sell and close this issue by the fiscal year end. So just a couple of assumptions. One of the things in going through, and then I'll go to the next slide, which shows the actual debt service. So what I'm anticipating is about $2.1 billion for the tax base for FY 2024. That does match your preliminary values. And then I have what I think are relatively conservative growth assumptions in there thereafter. So as you can see, 5% per year, 2025 through 2030. This is a 30-year repayment is what's anticipated. And so as you can see there, kind of that last sub-bullet point, what I've structured is interest only.
Mara, go back to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was looking at my notes here.
That's fine. Yeah, go. Yeah,
Right there. Sorry
there you
about
go.
that.
Yeah, that's where we need to be.
The way that this is structured is interest only for 1 year and then level debt service pretty much thereafter. And so we have that interest only for 1 year as we're trying to kind of mitigate the amount of any kind of tax rate increase that's needed. So by doing that with those conservative assumptions, what is projected, right now your INS tax rate is 15 cents. If we sell this debt, what we're projected for a maximum INS tax impact is 17.5 cents. So that'd be 2.5 cents. And again, that would take care of the full 27 million. Next slide, please. And so again, this just goes through what I went through as far as the assumptions, the taxable assessed values under column B, your current INS supported debt in column D. Once again, this does net out the paddock, the TERS, and the utility debt. And then actually this kind of splits out between column F and column H, the fire station debt and the streets debt. In actuality, what we'll do is we'll sell 1 CO. It'll have those 2 components in it, but we'll keep that separate so you as a city can keep that separate for your assets and liability portion of your balance sheet. And then the one thing that I would point out is under column J, Mr. Sims and I had talked about there is some excess debt service fund balance. And as you know, that debt service fund balance can only be spent to pay debt service. And so one of the things, again, in order to kind of mitigate as much as we could, the tax rate increase, the INS tax rate increase needed, what's anticipated here is about $228,000 of that excess fund balance being used, again, to try and constrain that tax rate for your citizens. So on the final slide, it just has a time frame. What this contemplates is at your meeting June 27th, if you want to move forward, that we could have bond counsel have a notice of intent prepared for you. So again, you would approve that notice of intent. That notice of intent would show up in your paper of local record for 2 consecutive weeks. And again, that's just letting your public know that you are anticipating issuing that debt. We would, as we've done in the past, would have rating agency calls. You may recall that we were upgraded by Moody's to a AA3, so that's certainly good. We'd most likely be talking with them and potentially even S&P as well. And then we would actually come back to you on August 22nd at your council meeting then, and at that point, I would come back with a completed transaction subject to your review and approval. And so at that time, I'd have all of the annual payments fixed, have the interest rates set, all of those type items. And again, that would be subject to your approval, but that would provide the full $27 million to the city. So I'd certainly be happy to answer any kind of questions you may have or to go into more detail as you'd like.
So, Jason, it sounds like, and thank you for being here today and giving us a detailed overview.
Certainly.
It sounds like if I go to, so you're on the page here, Tuesday, June 27, that is the first opportunity to authorize the public of notice of intent. And in that notice of intent, do we need to be very specific about, for example, streets, what streets we're going to move forward with?
So you do not. And again, that's one nice thing is you have the flexibility. And the reason that we like to put the flexibility in there is, as Mr. Sims said, if we actually have costs come under, which we haven't seen that in a couple of years, but let's say that we have costs come under, and just a very elementary example, if you have $1 million kind of tagged for Elm Street, and that comes in at 900,000, you can take that $100,000 difference and you could use it on any other street you wanted to. So again, as far as the notice of intent, no, it would be just a very high-level explanation, and it would effectively say $7 million for street repair and construction.
And if Omira, if you can go back to, it's showing up as page 98, the FY '23 borrowing slide. There. So that what we're contemplating on the next council meeting, the 27th, would be the $7,000 for proposed streets. We do have some example candidates here. However, we have some flexibility in which streets we may fall on. Or the second portion of that capital borrowing, that CO would be facilities, and what that would include would be the build of the Fire Station 3, after the costs are determined, consideration for Station Number 2, remodel, fire training, land for the fire training area, and then the library preliminary costs and parkland acquisition. Is that what I'm understanding? That's exactly what we're
Yeah,
doing?
absolutely. So what Jason and I would work on is wording your notice of intent so that what you put in the newspaper clarifies this and gives you some flexibility. So again, consistent with what Jason said, you're going to word your streets issuance so that you have a good range of flexibility there. I'm just giving you the staff recommendation that I don't know how we build the Fire Station Number 3 without doing Newton. I don't know how we build library without, I'm sorry, I said that backwards, but I don't know how we do Fire Station 3 without building Apache, and I don't know how we build a library without working on Newton. So we've got those two that staff's going to say, hey, if you want us to deliver the facilities, we got two important streets that are in need of some work. Then for the rest of the streets, I would say we really just need to handle that workshop style, right? So Chris Knapp, Steve, the rest of the team on the engineering side will come forward later this summer and say, hey, this is probably the right price tag for Apache. This is probably the right price tag for Newton. If council is content with leaving those two in the bucket, then you'll have some numbers there and say, okay, that's going to give us this remaining dollar amount, and we'll see, can we turn short segment on some of these roads that I've suggested here into longer segment? Can we turn some of these into, a little bit more robust? Can things be added? Does somebody on council have a different preference? I mean, we need a whole workshop discussion on all of that, and I'll provide that time as we go through this process. On the facility side of it, basically what you're going to be putting in the newspaper is to say, hey, we're going to want to build fire station number 3, and then there's some additional costs that we want to include, and we'll have some wording that allows us to cover these items that have been listed. My comment to you is, as I've studied the numbers and I've gone back and forth with Jason on this, I'm not comfortable going above these numbers. Now, you might look at it and say, hey, I want to be a little bit more cautious, but my advice to you is we have a lot of capital needs, and no matter how many we have, and there are a lot of them, I just don't think that we can go beyond the total $27 million. And so the reason I'm showing you that 10-year capital plan is that I want you to be looking at that, thinking to yourself, well, gosh, if I've got a different priority, if your priority for a facility isn't one of the ones I've listed here, we need to know that, and we need to kind of, make an alteration there. You've seen several presentations from Shane LaCroix on the fire side over the last couple of years during our 3-year strategic plan process, basically saying, these are our steps, this is our process, this is our methodical one by one that we're going to do, and here's where we'd like to go. So from my point of view, we're following along with our current strategic plans to offer this up for your consideration, and we just need to get some council feedback, and we need to know if you are okay with us bringing this forward for your consideration on the 27th. We can certainly vet the details, because that's what that period, and I'm sorry to make you bounce around, Amira, but go back to Jason's very last slide. So I want to be clear about what your action on the 27th is limited to, okay? Your action on the 27th would be to authorize publication of a notice of intent. That's a state law process where we're not allowed to borrow money unless we put it in the newspaper and we gave people the opportunity to say, no, we don't like that idea, don't do that, okay? And so, we need to be able to provide that opportunity for public input. We need to let the rating agencies know what we're thinking about doing, but you're not actually going to vote on your ordinance until the 22nd of August, okay? And you're voting on the 22nd of August with what will be more information, right? You're going to have had some time during your June 29th workshop to talk about your list. You will have had time to look at your budget and your tax rate. The reason Jason words it along the lines of, well, your maximum impact on your tax rate would be INS rate going up 2.5, is that I'm committed as your city manager to keep us at an overall tax rate of 7,642, right? So my goal during our budget process will be to keep the overall tax rate identical to the current overall tax rate. I think that's an important part of our goal here, and an important part of this process is to make sure that we're not going out to the community saying, hey, we want to increase your taxes overall. I'd like to find a way where we keep our taxes level, and I think that our budget process is the one where we'll be able to push through that effort and get those numbers dialed down. But we do have to set our tax rate during this period of time. So some of our tax rate setting is going to be based on some estimates. So that's all kind of stuff to have in your background thinking. My advice for you is, if we can move forward on the notice of intent, that's going to allow us to stay on track with your fire station number 3. That will mesh up very well with our step-by-step plan to open that up and make sure Station 3 is there when we need it to be there. So that's sort of lay of the land and how some of your discussions will go forward. So when you look at Jason's schedule, just remember you also have a June 29th opportunity to talk about this topic, and you've got your August budget retreat to talk about this topic as well, and hone up some of the details.
To clarify it again, we are not held with the notice of intent decision on the 27 to $8 amount and projects. Simply, this is what we plan, what we would like to do a borrow, and we will have the discussion on council, as Mike indicated, whether it's at the July or the June 29th meeting, council meeting, and budget retreat as well.
That is correct.
Thank you, and I would certainly, we'll continue to ask questions of Jason here, and I would encourage, as Mike has shared, for all of council to bring the projects they'd like to see fulfilled and the ones that you have some concerns about, come prepared on the meeting on the 29th and budget time to discuss those and provide staff feedback. What other questions do we have for Jason today?
I have a quick question. So if we moved forward with all of this, at some point later on, if we actually went through with that, would the city have an opportunity for doing pre-refunding in case interest rates lowered?
Yes, so we always maintain that flexibility where we can refinance the debt that we sell, just like you'd refinance your home mortgage. So even though interest rates are still right around historical norms, they're higher than what we've seen over the past couple of years. So in the future, interest rates go down, we could refinance that, save money on it. So yes, we would maintain that flexibility.
I mean, I think it seems like right now, especially with the Fed considering staying flat on raising interest rates probably tomorrow, that this is a pretty decent time to actually be moving forward on something like this.
I agree.
Do we have any other questions for Jason? Well, thank you so much, Jason.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Next, we have item 9.4, discuss agreement for sanitary sewer service to Terrell RV Park. And this falls under our Senior Director of Capital Projects, Steve Rogers.
Why does everybody laugh when you're announced?
I'm going to answer the councilman's question before he presents, and the reason is that he keeps telling us we've seen his last presentation, and here he is again.
Since y'all are all laughing at me, howdy, folks, how y'all doing? Okay, we're bringing to you tonight an agreement for sanitary sewer service with Terrell RV Park. And this is budgeted in your current utility capital reserve budget. This is a map that shows you where we're talking about. So if you look at the inset map on the top left-hand corner, you can see in there film alleys identified kind of on the top right-hand side of that. And so you have Interstate 20 at the bottom, and you have County Road 305, Sage Hill Parkway kind of cutting through the middle of the map there. And so this is the RV park that's at the corner of Sage Hill and Interstate 20, and that's Champion Drive, if you know where it is the roadway that TxDOT has that serves all these businesses here. So the red line, the solid red line is existing sanitary sewer, and the dash line represents the project that we are working on with the RV park owner. So the plan would be to extend from our existing system a 10-inch sanitary sewer through their site in an easement that they dedicate to the city all the way across their property to the far western boundary of their property. And there's a lot of advantages for us in doing this now and in the future. Now we get a sanitary sewer customer, the RV park. In the future, we can extend it to the west and serve these other businesses that are just off of the map. It also provides a corridor for us to extend water through their site as well in the future, which they want us to do, and we will do when we get things settled up out there in that area with the current provider. So this agreement is for $350,000. That's an estimated number. Their portion by percentage is estimated to be at approximately $100,000. So we capped their cost. In this agreement, we think it could be a little less than that, but we kept their cost at a maximum of $100,000. Mr. Mungeon is going to shepherd this project through the engineering department as soon as we can get this agreement signed. They'll be building it to our specs. We'll be inspecting it. We'll be reviewing the bids. We'll be involved in this all the way. And so the agreement is in here, and I'm not going to dwell on the details. I've kind of gone over a lot of those in my comments. And if you read through it and have any questions, I will go to another map here if you don't mind to kind of help. There's some of this is in the agreement as well. This one's a little different, maybe a little harder to read, but it's the same alignment that you just looked at, except it's green. And so at the top of this map is Sage Hill, County Road 305. The interstate's on the right-hand side of the map. So the left-hand side of the map at the top is the RV park. But it also gives us service into another property that's adjacent to it. The Holmes property is immediately adjacent. So we're going to be making at least 5 or 6 taps along this line, some to serve the RV park, at least one to serve the Holmes property. So we'll be able to provide service to Mr. Holmes if he chooses to tie to it. And again, this is budgeted in the utility capital reserve, and we're ready to move forward with the project upon successful approval of this on June 29th is our hope. Our legal team has reviewed this agreement. Mr. Sims has gone over it more than once, and we believe we're ready to go with this project. I'll be happy to answer any questions from that.
Thank you, Steve, and former City of Terrell engineer, Director of Engineering. Do we have, or what questions do we have for Steve today?
It's out of love, Steve.
I may not ever be back up here again.
May I ask someone on council to ask Jeremy Munson a question so he can come up here and get a proper introduction?
Really? Okay.
Jeremy, what do you think? Have you taken a look at the engineering plans very much? And what sort of challenge do you think this will be for us to construct?
Challenge-wise, I would say not much, but from a benefit standpoint, I would say it is. Good food for thought. The fact that we have a current parcel owner willing to grant easement and contribute funding for this project, I would say is a very much benefit to the city. So.
Thank you.
And Jeremy, we have one more question. What is the expected timeline if this project moves forward? For timeline for start completion?
According to the former city, there's a 90-day expectancy.
This project shouldn't take long. We have held this project because we've been working with them on a right-of-way issue for Sage Hill Parkway. And they did not want to move forward with it until we settled on Sage Hill Parkway on the right-of-way issue. They were separate things but related in their minds, so they wanted to wait till that was settled. Once that was settled, we moved forward. So we're going to try to get this done. We're going to push Mr. Munson to get this project done substantially by the end of the fiscal year, but we may not. We're going to try. That's our goal.
Hearing no additional questions, thank you both.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Moving on to business items, 10.1, discuss and consider contract recommendation for RFQ 2302, Professional Services Construction Manager Agent. This falls under Downtown Project Manager Raylan Smith. Thank you, Raylan.
Hi, good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. Tonight, I'm bringing back to you for action the evaluation team's recommendation for Core Construction as our construction manager agent. I had proposed a resolution.
The resolution is going to be on page 216, if you could go there, Mara.
I wasn't sure what page it was. Okay. I have drafted the resolution which would allow you to move forward with Core Construction. I wanted to highlight a few paragraphs within the resolution, simply that the city manager would be authorized to negotiate and execute a professional services agreement for city-owned facilities and master planning, but also that the agreement would be structured to allow for task orders on a building-by-building basis. So again, this goes back to, there would be an umbrella contract, professional services contract agreement. However, no work would be performed unless there was a particular task order that was assigned to that contract. You would have small task orders, which would be the individual task orders should not exceed the 50,000 without prior city council approval. An example of that would be a construction walkthrough or a construction timeline and budget for a pet adoption center. A larger task order that you would get to go over the actual pricing as well as timeline and the breakdown of payments would be something like a brand new fire station number 3. So with construction manager agent, they do give you your price up front. So when the CMA and the owner agree on a construction price, that is when their fee is set. So they do not actually get paid like a CMAR or a regular general contractor, which gets a set percentage of construction costs regardless. So we are able to negotiate those construction costs up front, and you're able to retain any of your leftover retainage or construction funds along the way. So I'm here to answer any questions you might have in regards to the CMAR or I'm sorry, the CMA, or any of the proposals, if you've had a chance to review those.
Raylan, you mentioned, you gave a couple of examples of what type of project the CMA would take on.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned the fire station, you mentioned, I believe maybe a library. When it comes to, when we look at downtown, and I use them as an example, the downtown area as an example because we have different projects, whether they're on the private or on the city side, but specifically on the city side, right? If we are, the CMA would only take care of the construction part, so not design, not design of design or engineering, it would only take care of the actual construction.
Right, they work hand in hand with your architect and engineer, who we will bring forward to y'all in the next few weeks, the recommendation for the architect engineer for the city-owned facilities. But they work hand in hand with your city construction team staff. They're the boots on the ground during the construction.
Like the project manager.
Yes, essentially. Mm-hmm.
What questions do we have from council? Hearing none, do I hear a motion for item 10.1?
Motion to approve item 10.1, the RFQ 2302.
Hearing a motion from Andrew Reese, Councilmember District 5. Do I hear a second? Second. Hearing a second from Councilmember Grady Simpson, District 2. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Was that all ayes? And any nays? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 10.2, discuss and consider award of bid for the COG Freeway Blocking Equipment Grant. This item falls under our Emergency Management Coordinator, Dustin Connor, and I hope I didn't get his title wrong because I know he just earned a certification, and I hope we will have him back here for a recognition in the near future.
Okay, well, I guess that'll happen now. All right, so we're bringing back the freeway blocking equipment. It's a grant we applied for back in 2021. So the grant period was kind of a strange one for us. It's not one that we've ever dealt with before, but we had to apply to COG, and then COG took it and gave it to the state. The state took it and then gave it to the federal government. Then the federal government approved it, gave it back to the state. We had to wait for the state to approve it. It came back to the COG. And the COG said, hey, you can go to bid for it, and once you get done going to bid for it, then we'll let you know if we approve it. So it's been a great process. So we're going to end up being about 2.5 years into this grant before we actually see the truck. So we're doing good things. So we went to bid a couple of months ago on, or about a month ago, sorry, on this project, and there were only two vendors, J-Tech, which this is one of the things that they do. It's one of the only things that they do are these truck-mounted attenuators, and O'Mara has a couple of pictures so you can just see what we're talking about. And then the other is Bruckner Truck Cells, and they also do the same thing along with some other things. But this is the vendor that we've selected is J-Tech, so we're hoping tonight to get permission to move forward with them so we can get this purchased. It's, like I said, it's done with grant funds. We have some money already set aside for the city's matching portion, but this truck won't come to us until the FY24 budget, which means you'll see it in your FY24 budget presentation. The only difference between the truck that we're gonna get and the one you see on there is that it'll be the signature black over red for Terrell, so it'll match the rest of our fleet. And it won't have the giant J-Tech advertisement on the back of it. It'll actually have our logo stuff on the back, so.
I always like to say this in the simplest way possible. We could park a fire engine out to block traffic and run the risk of somebody running into that. Or we could obtain one of these with a grant, which I love, and these are specifically designed so that when you're blocking traffic and clearing an accident scene, as we were just doing today on 148 and Spur 557, you provide a vehicle for safety's sake that is, I don't want to say it's there to be hit, but it's more there in case something.
It's much cheaper to replace this than it is to replace a fire.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a great thing to get with a grant and with Interstate 20 and Spur 557 in our city, as well as 34 and so on. This is a great piece of equipment.
Great. Do we have any new questions or feedback for Dustin? Okay. And this is an amount not to exceed $174,542 for J-Tech. Okay.
Yes.
Hearing no additional questions or feedback, do I hear a motion for this item?
Motion to approve item 10.2.
Hearing a motion from Councilmember Andrea Reese from District 5, do I hear a second?
I second.
Hearing a second from Councilmember Grady Simpson, do I hear, all in favor say aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say nay? Motion carries. Moving on to item 10.3, discuss and consider agreement of professional services for upgrade to Westside Pump Station. This item falls under Director of Utilities, Mike McKeska.
Can I use this? Okay. Good evening. Last week, went through the presentation. So I was going to try to buzz through just a couple of things. I didn't want to spend quite as much time talking about like some of the pictures and things like that. But, you know, the pump station's been around for about, over 15 years now. And it's time to expand due to everything going on around town. The site configuration, we'll cover just real quick. It's out on Apache Trail, and as you can see, the orange there's always been a plan for a future ground storage tank, and that's part of the scope of design, is to construct the solid orange tank as part of this project, design it, and then bid and construct it. And then we'll do some upgrades of a couple of pumps. There's a picture from the outside of the existing tank and pump station. You have the 4 existing pumps. You have space for 2 more. So we're going to be looking at that in VFDs. We'll have additional electrical equipment. We're going to have to expand this storage area just a little bit and upgrade the HVAC because of the heat that's generated here. So this is the basic scope of design services, is to move from 12 MGD to 20. I mentioned the other things. The only thing I didn't mention was to upgrade the SCADA system. You have to accommodate all the new equipment and so forth, and so we'll be working with Freeze and Nichols on what that looks like as part of the design scope. So we talked about this verbally, didn't have this in the presentation last week, the reasons, some of the general reasons for the project, you know. We want to make sure we meet regulatory design criteria when it comes to capacity and storage within our water system. As we continue to grow, you have to expand at some point to meet that design criteria. We're going to be looking at a new contract with North Texas at some point that'll have new criteria, and this will help prepare us for that. We have a 24-inch water main that's going to be tied to the station going to the south to serve the developments. They're listed there, the Eastland Business Park and the Arboretum Estates. And then we got to get ready for some CCN capacity within future CCNs within the city limits through annexation and the growth that's going to go on in those areas as well. And just to make sure we maintain the peak flow and we've got redundancy to handle the needs in the system. Funding was set aside, designated in 2023B that was closed in February. So it's part of that loan. We've kind of designated about $2 million. That's plenty for design, and then it'll give us some money for construction. We're looking at about $6 million construction cost estimate, $5.5 to $6 million. So there'll be a future borrow. The not to exceed amount on this contract, oh, I don't have that. $665,148 is on the first page of the professional services agreement that follows this, and it's not seeming to go somewhere. There you go, right there. About right on number 3, compensation. That does include some special services money in the amount of about $45,000. When we were developing the scope with Freeze and Nichols, there's some things that are not likely to come up, but could, such as environmental services. If we need to do some subsurface utility investigation and stuff, some SUE work on site to make sure we know exactly what's going on and how we're going to tie into pipes and so forth, then we have some money set aside for things like that. And if we don't need it, we don't spend it. It's going to be evaluated as part of the initial design. And so, staff's recommendation will be to authorize an action authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Freeze and Nichols in the contract amount not to exceed $665,148 for the services. So, if there's any questions.
Thank you, Mike. What new questions do we have for Mike McKeska today? Hearing no new questions or feedback, do I hear a motion for this item?
Motion to approve item 10.3, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Freeze and Nichols not to exceed $665,148.
Hearing a motion from Andrea Reese, District 5. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing a second from Grady Simpson, Council Member for District 2. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item 10.4, discuss and consider award of bid for summer 2023 road project, and this item falls under Director of Public Services, Glenn Caldwell.
If there was ever a great man for a cleanup hitter, this is a guy who's come to the plate at the end of the meeting to hit a home run. So here he is on everybody's favorite item, street maintenance, Glenn Caldwell.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So I'll be brief, but I like to say this publicly. Steve Rogers, I'd like to publicly thank you for the blessing that you have given me and my family, bringing me into the City of Terrell team. So I'll always be grateful. You know how my wife feels. She loves you and your wife, and thank the City of Terrell. So she asked about me. So now that I know this may be your last meeting, I could tell you that I acknowledge you publicly.
Come on, let's get on with it.
Okay, 2023. All right, well, I'll be brief. We had an opportunity to go over all of these particular items that I'm going to discuss here on the front end, and so I'll fan really quickly through to get to the meat and bones of the matter. Obviously, we're going to We went through and council had a chance to review input from the analysis that we done. Again, we had an opportunity to open bids here in the month of June. We're hoping to have bids recommending award tonight, depending on council's action. The pre-construction goal is to start during this month as well. We're projected to have a start date of this month, and we're planning to hopefully close this project out by August. So that's the fast track. Next slide. Well, okay. Okay. So again, this is a map layout of all the streets that are included in the street maintenance project. Next slide, please. Try it for you. Oh, okay. Again, a list of streets that you've all seen previous, on several occasions, actually. Again, there was 4 alternates. Alternate 1, William Street, which was an error on the map previous. We corrected that. That's going westward to terminus on William Street. We're gonna definitely do some temporary repairs over there. Wilson Street is alternate bid 2. Alternate bid 3 is Johnson Street. I get a smile, Councilwoman Reese, thank you very much. From 3rd to 9th, and also alternate bid 4, which will include some portion of pavement, cement treatment, and stabilization. And again, that is the addendum to the agreement that we're asking you to take action on tonight. The length of miles and distances that we're planning to impact is a little under 5 miles, obviously, of streets. We're going to do far more herbicide treatment to keep good streets good, keep the vegetation out of the streets and existing areas that we did previous year. The ditch cleaning, we're covering 6.28 miles, and there will be some tree trimming as well. We're gonna definitely match the street quantity that you see. Staff recommendation. We obviously opened bids on Tuesday, June 6th at 2 p.m. We received 4 total bids. Lowest responsible apparent bidder was Texana Land and Asphalt. We worked with this firm on several occasions over several years. They've performed extremely well every time they've done a project here in Terrell. We recommend award of the 2023 street maintenance hot mix construction project consisting of base bid, A and B, alternate bid 1 through 4, in an amount not to exceed $1,576,081.50 to Texana Land and Asphalt. Again, here's the funding component, which we like to be transparent. We do have enough funding in the current budget to absorb the costs. We originally received a total in the budget that we were looking at spending was $1,489,838. The bids came in at $1,576,081.50. We have a cost difference of $86,243.50. We're not asking council or the city manager to contribute to that cost. We feel confident within our current budget, we can absorb that cost. Again, here's the associated documents with the bid tabulation included. Okay. And these are your alternate bids. And there's Schomburg and Polk, which is a consultant that worked with us on this project, detailing all of the things that I discussed earlier. And as well, that was the addendum, and then included is a recommendation letter along with the contract documents that we'd like for the consultant to execute if council so approve. I'll open up for questions, please.
Thank you, Glenn. While we're almost at the end of our agenda, please know that we are all probably really excited inside to be talking about roads and getting more of our streets addressed in a positive direction. My question is around ditch cleaning and grading. I've had some feedback on recent work, and I'm not sure if it's Texas Land and Asphalt, or maybe it's a different contractor that we just contracted for additional projects where the ditch cleaning was completed. However, doesn't the grading seems like we could have done a better job of our contractor with grading. Is this the same contractor we use for all projects related to ditch cleaning and grading, or is there an opportunity for us to really, hold these folks accountable to the grading as well?
Mayor Pro Tem, I don't know the specific location that you may be referencing or the individuals, but rest assured, all of the entities that we have hired and procured to provide those services, they have done an outstanding job. That's my first comment. The current contract that we're asking you to agree upon, the group that will be doing the drainage is potentially a different entity. The company that works with this group is not the exact same company that probably be working on, I'm assuming, the drainage swell that was worked on that you're referencing. But I could definitely follow up. If you identify the location, share the information, I'll be glad to inspect it.
I'll just give you kind of more insight also. Remember that one of the changes that we've done in the last couple of years is that we just added a street superintendent. So as you know, we used to have one superintendent that was melded between facilities superintendent and street superintendent, and now we broke that out in the FY23 budget to be two separate individuals. And y'all were able to meet Linus Clark, I don't know, several months ago whenever he assumed that role. I think one of the benefits of having broken up our facility superintendent role with our street superintendent role is it just gives a staff person an extra ability to have an eye on something. And so, no contractor's perfect. If we can go out and we can reshoot a grade after they've come, they say, hey, we finished our ditch cleaning. We finished leveling that. We finished making that drain correctly. Well, it's one thing for us to have the time and staff ability to go out and look at a lot of them and eyeball them. And it's another one to have Linus be able to go out there and shoot a whole series of grades and say, yep, I can confirm that's 100%. So I think we're going to be able to apply just additional level of staff quality control, which is, to me, what it really boils down to is, do we have the time to say that contractor really did the right thing in the field? And we can always do that better, right? So I would just say, let's just step up and say, hey, we're going to do that to a level of excellence. And I think we have the staff ability to do that since we made that internal staff change here fairly recently.
Certainly, Glenn, you've encouraged me and encouraging all council members that if they do hear a concern where maybe there was a project that could use another look at their regrading or something else, to notify staff. That way we have the opportunity, while it's hot, to go out there and look at the work. And of course, no contractor or person is perfect, but I want to make sure that since we're hearing that we do have language in the contract to make sure that we can have them come back out and look at that work. I'm sure our staff already has plenty of other roles and responsibilities. So if it's something that they're already doing, whether it's this contractor or another contractor, that we have some teeth in the contract to be able to bring them back and look at a concern that we may have.
Well, I just want to say, this has been this project exceeded my expectations. Because one of the things that I really pushed when I became a council member was talked about our streets. And I know from what I've seen over the last few years, when streets become worn and damaged, water collects in them, right? And then that just calls us, as a city, to have to spend extra time and extra dollars, trying to correct these problems. I've seen this firsthand on Talty Road, where my street is. So having a maintenance program, prevents a lot of these opportunities to have cracks and worn and damaged streets. So, man, this is a great accomplishment. I'm so happy to see this, and again, great job.
Thank you, Mr. Councilman.
I want to thank Glenn and his staff for all the work on that, and I especially appreciate that, months and months ago, I guess it was back January maybe, that you did the presentation explaining things to us about the cars that drive around and have the little reader things that assess the roads. And I think that's a great process. I think you've done a great job with putting all that together. And, I think I've learned more about asphalt than I ever wanted to know, hot mix, cold mix, all that good stuff. But it's important, it's important for the city to have good roads. And I can tell that you and the staff have really put in a lot of thoughtful work on this, and I really appreciate that, and I think this is a great step forward.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Any additional comments or questions? And what I'm hearing from Mike earlier, related to grading, that if we do happen to have some grading that needs work, then that will be on our city staff to follow up.
Yeah, we'll just call it a team effort. If we ever think that there's anything the contractor's done wrong, we're just going to keep an eagle eye on it, and we'll definitely commit to that. But in many cases, it would be staff saying, okay, contractor, get back and do it again. All right.
Thank you for that clarification. Do we have any questions or thoughts? Because what I'm hearing, Glenn, is that you're recommending all four alternate bids at this time.
That's correct, Mayor Pro Tem.
Do I hear a motion?
Question. Is this item by the council being approved along with the not to exceed, or are we just making a statement of item 10.4?
It is a not to exceed.
Not
Not to exceed, Mr. Councilman.
Glenn, would you mind, what is that cost or
1.576 million.
And this is Texana Land and Asphalt that has been awarded to bid, correct?
That is is hopeful. Yes, sir. That is correct.
Recommended, okay.
Recommended, yes,
My
sir.
fault. Recommendation.
I wanted to say
I'm
yeah.
getting ahead of myself here.
Go ahead and make that motion.
Okay, all right, we'll make the motion. Make the motion, Mayor Pro Tem is,
yes, this would be the time to make that motion.
yeah, thank you, ma'am. You don't want to I want to get ahead of myself. Yes, motion to approve bid for Texana Land and Asphalt, Inc., not to exceed $1,576,081.50.
Hearing a motion from Councilman Grady Simpson from District 2. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Stephanie Holmes Thomas, a council member for District 4. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone, any nays? Hearing none, motion carries. Moving on to Section 11, Information Reports. We have item 11.1, Receive Terrell Fire Department Monthly Reports, and 11.2, Receive Terrell Monthly Department Monthly Reports. These are items that are included in your agenda, so I would encourage that our council, if they have any questions, to please reach out to our staff to answer those questions. Item 12, we do not have any executive items for item 12, so we will adjourn this meeting.